The inaugural SI99 basketball rankings are officially live, and as is the case with all rankings, you have to start at the top. And the man with the top right now is Chet Holmgren. He's here to break it all down with us. Chet, what's going on, man?
Not much, just happy to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, indeed, indeed. Well, let's start with this. You are the first ever number one player at Sports Illustrated ever. So when we go back in history and we go back to 2021, we'll look at Chet Holmgren's name first. How does that feel to be considered the best player among, obviously, you know that your peers are really strong too?
It's definitely an honor to be on top of the list, and it's definitely appreciated that my hard work is being seen. But at the same time, it's not too high on my list of accomplishments that I want to get, because when I picked up basketball, my goal wasn't really to be on top of this list or on top of that list. It was to play at the highest level and compete with the best, and hopefully that's in my future.
I mean, and obviously your hard work is paying off. When you go back and think about your career to this point, obviously you haven't rode off into the sunset yet.
Yeah.
But we're talking defining moments. Was it more defining for you to grow 6 inches in the eighth grade, or was it more defining for you to have that viral moment where you crossed Steph Curry up at his basketball camp?
I think they're both different. One was kind of just like a split second moment in time. The other kind of happened over time. But also, I didn't really like that play was how a lot of people found out about me and first saw me. But I don't want that play to define my career at all. Because at the end of the day, it's just one play. And on top of that, it was in a camp. So but growing, 7 inches or however much I grew was definitely very important. Because height helps a lot in basketball. So
No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Now you weren't born number one. You know, you have some players that the number one fourth grade in the world, right? But what I notice about your game, more than anything for me is always mentality. You play like a player that is underrated. Well, that's not the case anymore. You're not underrated, but you still play with that mentality. How do you keep that mentality when the reality is that you are considered the best? How do you keep that mentality?
yeah, there's a lot of things that go into that. Part of it just being where I come from and how I grew up playing. That's just the style of basketball I was taught. Don't give anybody everything and anything, and take everything you can from them. And on top of that, just understanding that the ranking. It's cool to have, but it doesn't really mean much at the end of the day. Everybody's still coming to try and beat you, and you're supposed to try and beat them. And go out there and compete hard.
Indeed. So we obviously know where you're dominant. We know the dominant parts of your game. I'm curious though, what part of your game do you feel is the most underrated? The one that people don't talk about as most, but you're like, this is the part of my game that I feel is the most underrated. What is that for you?
Yeah, I definitely say people don't look too much at my passing ability, my playmaking ability, and being able to create for my teammates. Especially this year with Jalen going off to Gonzaga, I definitely had to step up that role as a playmaker and creator for my teammates as well as myself. Because he created so much offense for us last year, so it's definitely important for me to step it up this year, and hopefully people start noticing.
Indeed. What pro, past or present, do you, and maybe if there's a combination with me watching you play, it might be even a combination of what pro or pros do you pattern yourself or your game after?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's one guy.
Yeah.
I pride myself in not being one dimensional. So why just watch one person and end up like that? So I'm kind of just like a basketball head. I just watch a lot of basketball, and if I see something I like that I can throw into my game that could help me be better, that's what I try to do. So whether it's watching really old games back in the '80s when it's Magic, Bird, and Michael Jordan, or watching new games, watching Kevin Durant. I love. If I had to say a favorite, I definitely say Kevin Durant. But I watch a lot of guys.
Indeed, indeed. So now let's talk about recruiting a little bit. All right, let me give I can get this right. I know it's seven. Let's see. Gonzaga, Minnesota, Georgetown, North Carolina, Memphis, Michigan, Ohio State are the seven. Am I right?
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, all right. That was a lot, but I got it. All right, so we got the seven. What is next for you, what's like, are you going to drop it to a 3? Or do you have like a timetable? Like, I'm going to, at the end of the day, I'm going to have it done at this point. What is next for you? What are the next steps for you with that?
Yeah, nothing set in stone really. But I kind of don't want to drag it on too long, especially COVID and all that stuff. Kind of put a few bumps in the road, but just trying to figure it out around that. And I'm definitely thinking sometime mid-season, whether that's like late January, early February, sometime in there. But I'm probably not gonna do another list cut. I'm probably just gonna figure it out from here, and you guys will know when I know.
Yes, indeed. Chet Holmgren, once again, the inaugural #1 player in the SI99. Now we know that he's hoping to be #1 on draft night next year. Chet, thanks again for joining us this morning, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.